The life you experience is not chance. It is not a series of unconnected events. The forbidden truth is that your reality is a signal. The universe is constantly transmitting a universal code of order, abundance, and harmony. This pure and infinite code permeates everything. Your mind is not a simple archive. It is a powerful decoding ring. The subconscious is the antenna that receives the universal signal and translates it into the tangible experience of your life, your health, your finances, your destiny. But the vast majority of humanity is not receiving the pure signal. They are living in the noise. They live in the static. Many people's lives are a constant struggle, not because the source is flawed, but because their internal antenna is stuck on an interference frequency. The chaos they see outside, the illness they experience, the scarcity that oppresses them, is the faithful translation of the static they carry within. What causes this static? Fear, trauma, and inherited beliefs. These obsolete patterns act as a jamming frequency, or a sonic malware that has been recorded in your decoder. The decoder is functioning perfectly, but instead of receiving the pure symphony of the universal code, it is tuned to the old radio of internal civil war. This audiobook is not a philosophy book. It is a technical manual for calibration. It is the key that allows you to access the engine room of your decoder to clean the static, discard the corrupt code, and deliberately tune in to the master frequency of abundance. In Part 1, we will perform the diagnosis. We will reveal the structure of the universal transmitter and the anatomy of your subconscious antenna. In Part 2, we will learn signal engineering, the language of feeling and will to create the new code. In Part 3, I will give you the tuning protocol, the step-by-step rituals for total recoding. Chapter 1, the silent code, the substance of reality. Look around you, do it right now. Fix your gaze on the closest object, a table, a chair, the wall of your room. Extend your hand and touch it. Feel the resistance under your fingertip. Feel the temperature, the texture, the undeniable solidity of matter. Your logical mind, trained since the first breath you took at birth, tells you, this is real, this is solid, this is unmovable. That sensation of hardness, that conviction that the world is made of separate, static things, is the great illusion. It is the veil of Maya the ancient Vedas spoke of, the shadow in Plato's cave. Your senses, those faithful informants you have trusted your whole life to navigate the world, lie to you. Or to be more precise, they don't tell you the complete truth. They offer you a simplified user interface designed for your biological survival, but not for your spiritual awakening. Cutting-edge science, quantum physics, has finally reached the same abyss that mystics reached millennia ago through silence. It has taken the densest object, the hardest diamond, and looked inside. It has descended through the layers of the molecule, penetrated the membrane of the atom, and searched for the fundamental brick of reality. And what has it found in the heart of matter? Nothing. It has found a terrifying and magnificent void. An atom, the basic unit of what you call reality, is 99.9999% empty space. If the nucleus of an atom were a golf ball in the middle of a football stadium, the electrons would be tiny dust motes spinning in the furthest stands. Everything in between, the immense majority of what constitutes your body, your house, your planet, is void. But it is not a dead void. It is a vibrant void. What your senses interpret as solid matter is nothing more than a dance of energy, a vortex of movement so fast that it creates the appearance of solidity, just as a fan's blades appear to form a solid disk when spinning at high speed. The universe is not a construction of bricks. It is a condensed thought. Understanding this is not an intellectual exercise. It is the first step to reclaiming your power. Because if the world were truly solid, if your life were made of unmovable facts like stones, then you would be a victim. You could not change the stone with your mind. But if the world is energy, if it is information in motion, if it is a transmission, then the signal can be changed. This means that your pain, your empty bank account, your medical diagnosis, your loneliness, are not solid facts that have fallen upon you like rocks. They are patterns of information. They are frequencies that have densified and crystallized because they have been sustained long enough by an observer. You. Reality is not a structure. It is a transmission. and you are the receiver that gives it form. The first step toward mental transmutation, the first degree of this forbidden wisdom, is to assume this new paradigm, even if your logical mind rebels. Everything you perceive is mind, and mind is energy. The silent code, the substance of creation. If matter is ultimately energy, we must ask, what directs that energy? Why does the energy take the form of a flower in one place and the form of a tumor in another? What gives it the instructions? The answer is information. It is the universal code. Behind the veil of physical appearance, there exists a matrix of pure information. The ancients called it the logos, the word, the Tao. We will call it the silent code. This code is the infinite mind of the source. It is not a human mind, full of doubts and contradictions. It is the geometric pattern of perfection, the algorithm of abundance, the syntax of harmony. It is the original source code of the universe, continuously projected as pure potential at every point in space and time. This code contains the blueprint for your perfect health, your unlimited prosperity, your absolute peace. It is transmitting right now, at this instant, through the walls of your room and through the cells of your body. The problem of humanity, your problem, is not that the code is absent. It is not that God or the universe has forgotten you or stopped sending you the signal of well-being. The problem is that the code is silent. It is a pure, stable, high-frequency and constant signal that does not compete with noise. It does not shout, it does not impose itself. And most people, the vast majority of sleeping humanity, are deaf to this signal, not because they don't have ears, but because their own personal mind, their ego, is too busy shouting. The noise of your worries, the clamor of your fears, the static of your judgments, all of that creates an interference so dense that the signal of the silent code, the signal of your own perfection, is completely blocked. This understanding has a radical consequence. If reality is mental and vibratory, and if what you experience is the result of how you tune into the code, then the concept of the external enemy dissolves. The victim mentality is based on the belief in solidity. The economy is bad, that's why I'm poor. The virus is contagious, that's why I'm sick. He left me, that's why I'm sad. This is the logic of matter. One thing hits another and causes an effect. It is the physics of billiard balls. But in the metaphysics of consciousness, this causality is false. You are not a victim of the economy. You are a victim of the scarcity code that your mind is projecting onto the neutral screen of the economy. You are not a victim of illness. You are a victim of the code of disharmony and stress that you have allowed to run on your biological operating system, lowering your defenses and permitting the intrusion. You are not a victim of loneliness. You are the creator of a frequency of isolation that repels connection. Physical struggle, working longer hours to defeat poverty, fighting illness with hatred, manipulating others to love you, is useless and exhausting because you are fighting a hologram. You are trying to comb your reflection in the mirror. You cannot fight a projection. No matter how much you hit the mirror, the image will not change unless you change yourself. Your only form of power, your only real sovereignty, resides in stopping the fight against the distorted code you see outside and starting to rewrite the code within. You have to stop being the character in the movie who shouts at the screen and remember that you are the projectionist. Here is where the secret stops being an abstract theory and becomes intimately personal. You might think, if there is a perfect universal mind, who am I? Am I insignificant? The answer is the divine paradox. You are not a mind separate from the universal code. You are a focal point of that mind. Imagine the ocean. Where does the ocean end and where does the wave begin? There is no border. The wave is the ocean behaving in a specific way in a specific place. It has the full force of the ocean behind it. Your individual consciousness is not an isolated, solitary spark lost in the darkness of the cosmos. It is a code localizer. You are the terminal where the universal mind becomes conscious of itself at a specific point in space-time. You have the same creative power as the source, but applied in a localized context. Your body, your life, your immediate environment. You are the manager of a reality franchise. Your mind is the personal decoder. Your brain is the biological hardware designed to capture the infinite, timeless signal of the universe. and translate, reduce, and focus it into the finite, linear, and tangible experience of your life. But like any decoder, your mind needs software to interpret the signal. It needs parameters, it needs instructions. Your habitual thoughts, your deep beliefs, and your dominant emotions are the input programs. They are the algorithms that tell your decoder which part of the vast and infinite universal code it must select and manifest as physical reality. The universe says, here are infinite possibilities: wealth, poverty, health, illness, love, loneliness. Everything exists in potential. What do you want to see? And your mind, through your beliefs, answers, if the input program is fear, the decoder takes the neutral energy of the universe and translates it into experiences of threat and scarcity. If the input program is trust, the decoder translates the same energy into experiences of flow and fortune. Your reality is not a judgment from God. It is not luck. It is the exact mathematical and faithful reflection of the information you have allowed to be introduced into your decoder. It is not a punishment. It is a perfect execution of the input code. You are the programmer who has forgotten their language, typing disaster commands, and being surprised when the system executes them. The mind that constitutes the fundamental substance of the universe, that quantum clay from which everything is made, is not your personal mind, your ego, your limited self, your history, your name. It is the universal mind, what the Hermetists called the All. This great transmitter is a field of pure potentiality. It is infinite consciousness. It is the source from which the original universal code emanates before being distorted by human perception. And this original code has two immutable characteristics. The original code is harmonic. The universal mind operates by default with the frequencies of life, expansion, and order. Observe nature. There is no effort in the growth of a tree. There is no doubt in the orbit of a planet. The natural tendency of the universe is towards health, towards abundance, towards complexity and beauty. Illness and lack are not created by the source. They are the resistance to the source. The original signal is always a signal of well-being. The original code is limitless. In the source, the concept of scarcity and competition, or I can't, does not exist. The energy is infinite. It does not run out. There is no limit to how much health or how much wealth can exist. Your own mind, the part of you that you use to make a shopping list, worry about the future, and analyze the past, is a fragment, a fractal of this universal mind. This is crucial. A fractal contains the totality of the pattern in each of its parts. The drop of water contains the chemical formula of the entire ocean. You are not a separate entity asking a distant God for help. You are a localized operating center that has, by design, access to the power of the totality. The source is not out there, dictating your destiny with a beam. It is within you, flowing through you, waiting for your decoder to tune into it so it can express itself in your world. Here arises the inevitable question, the cry of pain of human experience. If the great transmitter is emitting a perfect signal of abundance, health and order, 24 hours a day, why is my life a disaster? Why is there illness? Why is there poverty? Why is there suffering? If the radio station is playing perfect classical music, but your radio only emits annoying screeching noises, where is the problem? In the station or in the receiver? The answer, however painful it may be to accept at first, is that the personal decoder, your subconscious mind, is compromised. Your radio is broken. One, the local noise, the interference. The chaos in your life does not come from an error in the universal code. The source is perfect and constant. It comes from the local interference generated by your own antenna. Imagine your subconscious mind is a lens through which the pure white light of the source passes. If the lens is clean, the light passes without distortion and illuminates your world. But your lens is not clean. It is covered in dust, in cracks, in patches of mud accumulated over the years. Fear and trauma, your painful past experiences, your unresolved childhood fears, your traumas, act as dark spots on the lens. Guilt and resentment, they are distortions that bend the light. Limiting beliefs, I'm not worth it, life is hard, money is evil. These are cracks that fragment the image. These elements act as a static generator. They create a field of noise that overlays the pure signal from the source. The loyalty of the decoder. Here is where the mechanics become fascinating. Your decoder, the subconscious, is an impersonal and absolutely faithful machine. Its job is to materialize whatever is in the signal. It does not have the capacity to say, wait, this part of the signal is fear, static. I'm going to ignore it and only manifest the part of love, universal signal. No. It takes the complete signal, the universal code, vital energy, plus the static of fear, your distortion. It mixes them, translates them together, and projects that mixture as your physical reality. The result? You see chaos. You see a painful relationship. You see an account in the red. But what you are seeing is not the will of God or the caprice of destiny. You are seeing the high-fidelity projection of your own interference. The decoder has mixed the order from the source to create life with the noise from your mind, fear of scarcity. Your reality is the faithful translation of this corrupt mixture. You have been listening to a symphony through a radio that has not been tuned in decades. 2. The illusion of separation. Most people, upon encountering this static in their lives, look up and blame the heavens. They believe the problem is the transmitter. God has abandoned me. The universe is hostile. I have bad luck. This is the fatal mistake. It is the error that keeps you powerless. As long as you believe the source of the distortion is outside, you can never fix it. The true diagnosis is that your antenna is jammed. The struggle of the human being is not against the universe. It is against the interference that they themselves generate, and that prevents them from hearing and channeling the symphony of creation that is already playing. The solution is not to pray for the transmitter to change its song. The solution is to clean the receiver, so it can play the music as it was written. We must conclude this first chapter by understanding the fundamental law that makes all this work, for better or for worse, the principle of fidelity. The universe is a neutral mirror. It has no favorites, it is not personal. It does not punish the sinner or reward the saint in the human sense, it simply returns. It operates as a perfect echo. If you stand in front of a canyon and shout, "I hate you," the echo will return, "I hate you." Not because the canyon hates you, but because it is faithful to your voice. If you shout, "I love you," it will return, "I love you." If you send a signal of fear, static, the universe, in its absolute fidelity, sends you more circumstances that generate fear to resonate with you. It says, "I hear you. Here is more of that." If you send a signal of certainty and gratitude, pure code, the universe, with the same mechanical fidelity, sends you circumstances of success. This fidelity, which may seem cruel when we suffer, is actually the supreme guarantee of your power. Why? Because the chaos you have lived until now is proof that the system works. If you have been capable of creating such perfect, detailed, and persistent chaos through your unconscious static, that is proof that your creation machinery is operational and powerful. Your capacity to create hell is proof of your capacity to create heaven. The machine works. You have only been inputting the wrong data. Your life will not change when the world changes. The world is only the screen. Your life will not change when others change. They are only actors responding to your script. Your world will change inevitably and radically at the exact moment your antenna changes, the moment you assume responsibility for your own signal and begin the sacred work of cleaning the static. That is the path we are going to take. Chapter 2. The decoding ring, the subconscious as receiver. Most people make the mistake of thinking of the subconscious as a warehouse. They see it as a dusty basement where childhood memories and forgotten traumas are stored. This is a tragically limited view. The subconscious is, in reality, a real-time reality factory. It is a quantum translation engine. Its primary function is to take vibrational signals, your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, and collapse them into physical matter and events. It is the bridge between the world of the wave, energy, and the world of the particle, matter. The input. The subconscious receives a signal. It can be the pure universal code, intuition, life, or it can be the static of fear, your worries. To it, everything is simply input data. The processing. The subconscious takes that signal and amplifies it. It searches its database for how to create reality. The output. The subconscious projects that signal outward. It coordinates your cells, your nervous system, your electromagnetic field, and your automatic actions so that signal becomes a tangible fact. You do not see the world. Your subconscious decodes it for you based on the parameters you have given it. To understand the power of this decoding ring, first look at its most immediate domain, your own body. Your body is the hardware. Your subconscious is the operating system. Your conscious mind, the 5% cartographer, has no idea how to make your heart beat. It doesn't know how to digest an apple and turn it into muscle tissue. It doesn't know how to heal a cut. If you had to consciously control these functions, you would die in a minute. It is the subconscious decoder that manages the infinite complexity of your biology. It takes the order of life from the universal code and translates it into millions of chemical reactions per second. If the decoder receives the signal of danger, fear, you're static. It translates that signal into cortisol, inflammation, and muscle tension. It decodes fear as preparation for biological warfare. If the decoder receives the signal of peace, security, it translates that signal into oxytocin, relaxation, and cell regeneration. It decodes peace as repair of the temple. Illness and health are not accidents. They are the printed output of the signals the decoder has been processing. Your body is the screen where you can read the code you have been transmitting. But the power of the decoding ring does not stop at the skin. It extends to the field of external reality. Here is where forbidden metaphysics becomes strange and wonderful. Your subconscious is not confined inside your skull. It is a non-local field. It is connected through the universal code with all other minds and with matter itself. When you imprint a strong signal on your decoder, e.g. the certainty of financial success, the subconscious doesn't just adjust your behavior, it adjusts the matrix. It sends a subtle signal that makes another person feel the urge to call you. It guides you through a hunch to be in the right place at the right time. It filters your perception, so you see opportunities that were previously invisible to your conscious mind. What we call coincidence or luck is, in reality, the subconscious decoder hacking probability to comply with the order it has been given. It is the operating system rearranging the desktop of your reality to match the file you have opened. And here lies the danger and the promise. The decoding ring is a machine, it is impersonal. It has no sense of humor. It does not judge morally. It does not distinguish between what is good for you and what is bad for you. It only distinguishes the strength of the signal. If you give it a signal of failure charged with intense emotion, fear, the decoder does not say, "Oh, poor thing, he doesn't want to fail, I'll ignore this." It says, "High priority signal received, failure, initiating sabotage protocols, executing anxiety, blocking opportunities, materializing debt." The decoder works with the same perfect efficiency to create a cancer as to cure one. It works with the same genius to create bankruptcy as to create fortune. Its only function is to translate. The responsibility for the input signal is yours. To understand why your attempts at change fail, you must understand the difference in architecture between your two minds. 1. The conscious processor, the logical mind. Your conscious mind, the you that thinks and analyzes, is a linear and serial processor. It can only process one piece of data at a time. It lives in sequential time, past, present, future. Its tool is logic. Logic works by breaking down reality into small fragments to understand them. It is excellent for survival in the physical world, but it is incapable of creating. Logic can only work with data that already exists, the past. It cannot process the unknown. 2. The subconscious processor, the decoder. Your subconscious is a parallel and quantum processor. It processes millions of bits of information per second. It does not know linear time. It lives in an eternal now. It does not use logic. It uses association and resonance. It is capable of connecting dots that logic cannot even see. It knows how to align a business opportunity with a casual encounter on the street. It knows how to coordinate billions of cells to heal a tissue. The input error. When you try to use your logic to control your subconscious, you are committing a format error. You are trying to program an infinite intelligence with limited commands. You say, "I want to be rich," logical command. But then you add, "But how?" The economy is bad. I have no education, it's difficult. Logical interference. The decoder receives the order wealth, but immediately after receives a burst of static noise. How? When? Why not? Logic acts as a signal blocker. It fragments the pure order. And the decoder, upon receiving a corrupt and fragmented signal, cannot execute the program. It stays in standby mode, or worse, executes the default program, the security of the known. The greatest enemy of the decoding ring is the conscious obsession with the how. When you define a goal, e.g. healing, your logical mind immediately asks, how will it happen? What medicine? When? This search for the how is what signal engineers call jamming, intentional interference. The how is the decoder's domain. It has access to the infinite network of probabilities. The conscious mind only has access to the limited archive of its past experience. When you try to force the how with your logic, you are limiting the decoder to the few options you know. You are disconnecting the machine from the universal network and forcing it to work with the obsolete data from your local memory. If your decoder has the capacity to bring you the solution by a path you cannot even imagine, your logical insistence that the solution must come this specific way is what blocks the reception. Logic is a narrow-band filter. The subconscious is broadband. For the magic to happen, you must turn off the filter. Language incompatibility, data versus frequency. There is a second level of failure, language. Your conscious mind loves words, it loves abstract concepts. Your subconscious mind, the decoder, is deaf to words. It only understands images and frequencies, emotions. You can repeat the affirmation, I am happy, 1,000 times, word data. But if while you say it, your body frequency is sadness and your mental image is grey, the decoder ignores the 1,000 words and obeys the one real frequency, sadness. The conscious operator is sending faxes to a machine that only receives holographic video transmissions. True reprogramming, true access to the code, requires that you stop talking to the machine and start transmitting to it. You must learn to convert your logical desires into sensory data packets. Not the word health, but the visual image of you running and the visceral frequency of vitality in your muscles. Not the word money, but the tactile sensation of security and the image of freedom. The decoder does not think, it feels, it does not judge, it executes. Finally, the conscious operator makes the mistake of premature verification. You send a signal, a desire, and 5 minutes later, you look at your reality, the screen, to see if it has changed. Seeing that the screen is still the same, because reality has a rendering time, your logical mind panics. It didn't work, it says. This logical judgment, it didn't work, is a new input signal. It is a cancel order. It is a failure signal. And the decoder, obediently, receives the failure order and stops the manifestation process. You are trapped in a loop where your logic judges the current reality, and that judgment becomes the instruction to create the future reality. You are re-imprinting the same error code over and over. We have completed the diagnosis of the machine and the operator. You know that the subconscious is the decoding ring that translates energy into matter, and you know that your logical mind, with its obsession with the how, its empty word language, and its addiction to verifying reality, acts as an interference signal that jams the machine. The system is blocked. The pure signal of the universal code, abundance, health, is trying to enter, but your own critical mind is raising a wall of white noise. To fix this, we don't need more force. We need to hack the filter. We need to find a way to bypass the logic guard to deliver the message directly to the core of the processor. There is a function in your mind designed for this, a defense mechanism that has been turned against you, but which you can learn to disable. Chapter 3, the frequency guard, the critical brain. If you have the power of the universal mind, why can't you simply rewrite the code and be done with it? Why does it feel like there is an invisible force pushing against you, sabotaging your best efforts, ridiculing your new dreams? The answer is not that you lack the power. The answer is that you lack the access. There is an invisible membrane, a neurological and psychological force field that stands as a steel wall between your conscious mind, the user who desires change, and your subconscious mind, the operating system that executes reality. Ancient hypnotists called it the critical factor, Modern psychology calls it defense mechanisms, but forbidden metaphysics identifies it by its functional name, the frequency guard. In terms of our computer metaphor, this is your biological firewall. And the third law of decoding, the law that explains all your past failures, is this. The guard does not allow the entry of any new code that contradicts the database of the past. To stop fighting yourself, you must stop seeing this guard as an enemy, a demon, or a factory defect. It is none of those things. It is a brilliant and necessary security protocol designed by millions of years of evolution to maintain your structural integrity. Imagine for a moment that you didn't have this firewall. Imagine that your subconscious, that powerful literal machine that controls your heart, your cells, and your vibration, accepted every signal that reached it without filtering. If someone walked down the street and shouted, "You are a bird," and you didn't have the guard, your subconscious would instantly accept that order. Your biology would attempt to alter itself, your psyche would fracture, your reality would collapse into madness. You need a filter. You need a customs checkpoint at the border of your mind that distinguishes between true data and random noise. The tragic problem of the human being is not that the guard exists. The problem is how the guard has been programmed to define truth. The guard is not wise. It does not know what is objectively true. It does not know what is best for you. It does not know that you are a divine being capable of infinite abundance. The guard is a comparison machine. It only knows what is coherent with your already installed programming. Its security algorithm is brutally simple. Compare input with historical archive. Let's analyze the process of a rejection in real time. 1. The incoming signal. Your conscious mind, inspired by a desire for change, generates a new thought. I am going to be a millionaire. I am abundant. 2. The verification. The guard intercepts this thought at the border before it touches the subconscious core. It immediately scans your historical database, your childhood memories, your financial traumas, the voices of your parents, your current bank account. 3. The scan result. The database returns the report. Poverty record found, fear of scarcity record active. Money is hard, record validated repeatedly for 30 years. 4. The verdict. The incoming signal, I am a millionaire, does not match the master file, I am poor. A cognitive dissonance alert is generated. 5. The action. The guard classifies the new positive thought as malware, false code, lie, dangerous delusion, and blocks it. The signal bounces back. It does not reach the decoder. And you feel that bounce physically. When you say I am rich and don't believe it, you feel a knot in your stomach. You feel like you are lying to yourself. That sensation of falsity and resistance is not a sign that you cannot be rich. It is the sound of your firewall closing the steel doors. This is why mechanical positive affirmations fail miserably. They are rejected by the firewall before they can be installed. You are trying to install Wealth 2.0 software on an operating system that has been configured to only recognize Scarcity 1.0. The system rejects the update due to file incompatibility. But the guard does not just block thoughts, it blocks changes in state. Behind this firewall is an implacable biological law that governs all living organisms, homeostasis. Your biological and psychic system is designed to maintain stability at all costs. Your body temperature, your pH level, and also your emotional vibration level must be kept within a known range to ensure immediate biological survival. For your primitive brain, the hardware where the guard resides, any change, represents a massive expenditure of energy and a potential risk of death. To the guard, the known is safe even if it is painful, miserable, or toxic. If you have survived until today being poor, poverty is classified as safe. To the guard, the unknown is dangerous even if it is better, happier, or richer. Wealth is unmapped territory and therefore classified as potential threat. The frequency guard acts as a vibrational thermostat. Imagine that your internal financial temperature is set to struggle and survival. If you have vibrated at that frequency for 20 years, the guard identifies it as your safety zone. If you suddenly win money or have a great idea or start feeling hopeful, your vibration rises. The guard detects a thermal anomaly. Alert! Vibration is rising dangerously. We are exiting the known parameters of scarcity, risk of uncertainty, And what does the guard do? It activates the cooling systems. It activates auto-sabotage. It bombards you with sudden doubts. What if I lose everything? It induces irrational fear. It makes you forget an important meeting. It makes you spend the extra money on an unforeseen emergency. It does everything necessary to force you to lower your frequency back down to the safe, known zone of struggle. And when you're back in trouble, oddly enough, you feel a kind of perverse relief. The relief of returning to the known. Homeostasis has been restored. You are not fighting your incapacity. You are not fighting destiny. You are fighting against your own thermostatic security mechanism that is working too well. To hack this system, it is vital to understand when and how this firewall was installed, because it was not always there. When you were born, you had no guard. From ages 0 to 7, your brain did not produce beta waves, the state of alert and critical analysis. You operated almost exclusively in delta and theta waves. Theta is the state of hypnosis, of vivid imagination, of lucid dreaming. During those magical, vulnerable years, you were an open system, a hard drive without a password. Everything you saw, everything you heard, everything you felt was recorded directly into the subconscious core as absolute truth. If your father told you you are stupid, you had no guard to analyze it and say that is just the opinion of a tired man. It went straight in and became code, I am stupid.x. If you saw your mother cry over money, you didn't analyze it. You downloaded it moneyispain.exe. In those 7 years, you downloaded the source code from your parents, your culture, and your environment. But around age 7 or 8, something changes. The brain begins to develop the analytical mind. Beta waves appear. The firewall is erected, the door to the server room is locked, and the key is thrown into the sea. From that moment on, the base code is encrypted. You have spent the rest of your adult life operating with programs that were installed when you were a helpless child. But now, as an adult, you try to change those programs using logic, analysis, and willpower. And you fail. Because you are trying to use adult logic, which lives outside the firewall, to change a childhood emotional belief, which lives inside and is protected by the firewall. You are trying to reason with a tape recorder. You are trying to open a safe with pretty words. The guard protects the inner child, the original program, from the intervention of the adult, the conscious desire, because the original program is what kept you alive until now. Understanding this is the end of blame. It is not that you are weak. It is that you have been hitting an armored door with your fists. But every door has a key, and every computer system has a back door. The guard is formidable, but it has a blind spot, a structural weakness that the code operator can exploit. The frequency guard is rigorous, but it is not infallible. Its programming has a critical vulnerability, designed by nature itself to allow growth. If there were no way to bypass the firewall, we would never learn anything new and would be trapped forever in the cycles of our childhood. The secret to bypassing the guard lies in understanding its language. Your critical mind, the guard, operates in a binary logical system of true, false, real, unreal. If you present it with a logical fact, such as the affirmation, I am a millionaire, while you are bankrupt, the guard evaluates it, compares it with the current reality, and labels it false, immediate blockage, total rejection. But what happens if you don't present it with a logical fact? What happens if you present it with a simulation? Here the supreme tool comes into play, sensory imagination. If you sit in your armchair, close your eyes, and imagine a scene of abundance, feeling the weight of the money, smelling the new car, hearing the congratulations, the guard is confused. For the guard's logic, imagination is harmless. It's a game, it's just fantasy. It does not perceive it as a threat to established reality because it doesn't come in the form of factual data. The guard labels the visualization as fantasy file not executable and lets it pass. It opens the door for it. It does not activate the defense alarms because it believes you are just daydreaming, and that has no consequences. This is the guard's fatal error and your triumphant entry point. By allowing the imagination to pass the filter, the guard has let in a Trojan horse. Because once that fantasy image is inside the walls, once it has penetrated the subconscious territory, the magic happens. Your subconscious, the decoder, has no capacity to distinguish between the real and the vividly imagined. It has no eyes to the outside. It only sees what is inside. If you charge that fantasy image with real emotion, gratitude, joy, relief, the decoder receives the signal. It sees the image, it feels the emotion. And since they are already inside the system, the decoder says, this has the texture of reality. This has the chemistry of reality. Therefore, this is a real fact. The guard let the code pass because it came disguised as a game. But once inside, the core executes it as an order to rewrite reality. This is the law of mental hacking. Do not argue with the guard, evade it. Do not try to logically convince yourself that you are rich. That is a debate you will lose. Imagine the wealth and, above all, feel the wealth. The feeling is the password that the guard cannot read, but which the central system blindly obeys. Access modes. When the guard sleeps. In addition to the Trojan horse of imagination, the firewall has moments of programmed biological inactivity. The frequency guard operates on beta brainwave energy, the state of alertness, wakefulness, stress, and analysis. When you are very awake and analytical, the guard is at its post with loaded weapons. But when the brain waves slow down, the guard falls asleep. The firewall is temporarily deactivated or becomes porous to allow system maintenance and recovery. There are daily windows of opportunity, natural portals where you have administrator access to the system. These are the access ports. The hypnagogic state, theta. This is the magical moment just before falling asleep. You are in bed, your eyes are heavy, logical thoughts dissolve, and dreamlike images begin to appear. In this state, brain waves drop to theta. The guard has gone to sleep, but the subconscious is fully awake and receptive. The hypnopompic state, theta. This is the mirror of the previous one, the moment just upon waking. You do not yet remember all your problems, the body is relaxed, the logical mind has not yet booted up the ego's operating system. The meditative trance, alpha. Voluntarily induced deep relaxation. In these states, the analytical mind disconnects. The steel door between the conscious and the subconscious opens wide. Any code you introduce at these moments, any visualization, any felt affirmation, any question to the universe, enters without resistance. There is no one at the door to say, that's false, that's impossible, or you don't deserve it. It is a direct, pure injection into the core processor. The tragedy is that most people waste these sacred moments. They go to sleep reviewing their problems, injecting error code directly into the core so it processes all night. They wake up, and the first thing they do is look at their phone, the news, or social media, allowing the world to inject junk code and fear into their pristine system. The code operator knows these are the minutes of gold. It is the time to rewrite the operating system, while the security administrator is asleep. It is the time to sow the seeds of the future. The frequency of non-resistance. Finally, there is an access key that has to do with attitude. We must understand that the guard feeds on pressure. When you try to force a change, when you put urgency and desperation into your desire, I need this money now, I must be cured, you generate what in quantum physics is called excessive potential. Tension activates the defenses. The guard interprets the urgency as a threat. Alert, pressure in the system, instability detected. And it responds with a total block to restore the old order. The more consciously you strive, the more unconscious resistance you generate. It's like trying to calm water by hitting it with a stick. The code is transmitted best on a low-resistance frequency. The attitude of play, curiosity, softness, or divine indifference is invisible to the guard's fear radar. When you say, I need to be rich, the guard brings out the shield. When you say, wouldn't it be wonderful if abundance flowed into my life, the guard lowers its weapon. Curiosity is not a threat. The question invites, it does not impose. Softness is the ultimate infiltration protocol. Water enters where rock cannot. The code that enters softly, like a whisper or a game, takes root deeply. The code that tries to enter by force breaks at the door. You have learned to identify the guard, and you have learned how to bypass it. You now possess the keys to the kingdom, imagination, the theta states, and non-resistance. It is time to use these keys to write the new code. Chapter 4. The tuning error, the dissonance of trauma. You have learned how the frequency guard protects your system, but what exactly does it protect it from? What is the nature of the information the system considers safe and normal? Why is your default setting often fear, scarcity, or pain? To understand this, we must redefine one of the most misunderstood concepts in modern psychology. We must talk about trauma. The word has been used so much that it has lost its edge. We tend to think of it as a painful memory, a sad story from the past, or an event that happened to you years ago. For the code operator, this definition is useless and dangerous. The past does not exist. If something is affecting you now in this precise millisecond, it is not because it happened 10 years ago. It is because it is an active frequency in the present. Trauma is not history, it is physics. It is a massive amount of emotional energy, fear, pain, shock, terror, that at the moment of the original event was too intense, too fast, or too overwhelming to be processed by your nervous system. Since the system could not digest that signal, the energy did not flow. It got trapped. It froze in time. It became a standing wave. Imagine a scratched vinyl record that repeats the same fragment of a horror song over and over, in the background of your mind, below your conscious threshold. That wave is a feedback loop of dense energy spinning upon itself, trapped in your electromagnetic field and in your cell tissues. That loop is a constant interference signal. It is a perpetual background noise, a hum that never ceases. When you try to tune into the frequency of abundance, a smooth, expansive, high-fidelity wave, that pure signal has to pass through the dense, chaotic noise field of your trauma. The result is a corrupt signal. The decoder receives the business opportunity signal, but before you can act, that signal mixes with the standing wave of fear of loss carried in your system. The result? You doubt, you paralyze the action, or you make a decision based on fear that sabotages the business. Health mixes with the memory of pain. Love mixes with the expectation of betrayal. And the subconscious decoder, upon receiving this contaminated mixture, manifests a confused and frustrating reality. You earn money and lose it immediately. You improve your health and relapse for no apparent reason. You find a partner and push them away. It's not bad luck. It is the physical manifestation of signal dissonance. Your reality is the sound of a badly tuned radio. But the tuning error is even deeper and more mysterious. Many of these interference loops, these standing waves of fear and limitation, did not even start with you. As we briefly saw at the beginning, your operating system comes with pre-installed malware. The science of epigenetics has recently confirmed what shamans and mystics knew millennia ago. Trauma is inherited. Memory resides not just in the brain, it resides in the cell. If your grandfather lived through a famine, a war, or a devastating loss, the massive vibrational signal of fear of scarcity altered the expression of his genes. That alteration, that maximum alert setting, was biologically transmitted to your father and then to you. You were born with your radio dial already turned towards the scarcity alert frequency. Before you had your first conscious thought, your system was already scanning for danger. It is not your fault, but it is your calibration. That's why you feel anxiety about money, even if you've never truly lacked it. That's why you feel a visceral mistrust in relationships, even if no one has directly betrayed you. You are listening to the static of your ancestors. You are processing the universal code through the fear filters of past generations who survived worlds far more hostile than yours. This inherited script acts as an inescapable system bias. The decoder is programmed to interpret any neutral signal as a potential threat. An investment opportunity, neutral signal, is automatically decoded as risk of imminent ruin, inherited traumatic interpretation. A stranger's look, neutral signal, is decoded as rejection or danger, traumatic survival interpretation. As long as this base calibration is not corrected, your system will continue to distort reality to match the trauma, not the truth. You will continue living the story of your ancestors, disguised as your own life. The most terrifying and difficult thing to accept about this tuning error is that the system becomes addicted to it. Trauma and chronic stress are not just mental states, they are chemical states. They generate a specific cocktail in your blood, cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and neuropeptides associated with emotional addiction. Your body, your cell receptors, become accustomed to this chemistry. Over time, they identify the state of alert, tension, and dissonance as their normal, safe state. Peace, paradoxically, is registered as a chemical anomaly. If you suddenly manage to silence the mind, have a stroke of luck, or feel a deep peace, your calibration system panics. The internal thermostat detects the drop in stress levels. Alert! Cortisol levels are dropping too fast. The fear signal has disappeared. This is unknown. Restore the static immediately. And your own subconscious, in an act of chemical loyalty, will sabotage your peace. It will create drama out of nowhere, provoke an argument with your partner, make you remember a forgotten debt, or send you a wave of anxiety for no reason, just to return to the familiar frequency of dissonance. Just so the chemistry of your blood returns to the stress levels it is addicted to. You are fighting a thermostat that is fixed on chaos. Every time you try to cool the room towards peace with positive thoughts, the system turns on the trauma heating at full power to return to its habitual temperature. That's why change is so difficult. That's why we return to the same problems over and over. It's not a lack of willpower, it is a biological addiction to our own static. The diagnosis is clear. Your antenna is dirty, your dial is stuck on the trauma station, and your body is addicted to the static. How do you break this cycle? How do you clean a standing wave that has been spinning for generations? You cannot fight static with more noise. You cannot eliminate trauma by analyzing it to death, because by focusing on it, you give it energy. To clean your antenna, you must understand and apply a fundamental physical principle: entrainment. If you place two oscillators, like two pendulums or two tuning forks, vibrating at different frequencies near each other, physics dictates that the oscillator with the stronger, more stable, and more coherent signal will force the weaker and more chaotic one to synchronize with it. Chaos always surrenders to coherence. High-energy order organizes low-energy disorder. Your trauma, the standing wave, is a low-coherence signal. Although it seems strong, it is noisy, messy, fragmented, and consumes an immense amount of energy to maintain itself. The universal code, the signal of the source, intuition, love, gratitude, is a high-coherence signal. It is ordered, efficient, harmonic, and powerful. The only reason trauma persists and dominates your life is because you, the operator, continue to feed the weak signal with your attention and your identification. You give it your power. The cure is not to fight the trauma that is feeding it. The cure is to introduce a new carrier signal so potent, so clear, and so coherent that the old trauma wave has no choice but to surrender to the rhythm of the new frequency. You don't erase fear, you overwrite it. You introduce a signal of safety so massive that the fear loses its bandwidth and dissolves due to lack of attention. The first step to recalibration is the signal fast. You must stop validating the static. You must stop telling the story of your trauma as if it were your identity. Every time you say, "It's because I'm like this because my father treated me badly. It's because I have bad luck. It's because I'm anxious," you are reinforcing the standing wave. You are re-recording the error code on the vinyl of your mind. You are telling your system, "Keep this dissonance active." The code operator must make an executive and ruthless decision to declare that the inherited script and past trauma are obsolete data, corrupt files that will no longer be opened. This requires steel discipline. It requires constant vigilance. When you feel anxiety rise, the old signal activating, don't investigate it. Don't ask yourself, "Why do I feel this way now?" Don't throw yourself into the pit of analysis. Simply recognize it for what it is. Ancient signal interference detected. This is just an echo. And then cut the power. Withdraw your attention. Deny your consent to participate in that emotion. By denying your analytical and emotional energy to the trauma, you begin to weaken the standing wave. You deprive it of its power source. You starve it. Once you have stopped feeding the noise, you have created a void. Now you must fill it immediately. You must inject the new signal. What is the frequency that dissolves trauma? It is not superficial happiness or blind optimism. It is the frequency of wholeness. Trauma is the vibration of fragmentation. I am broken, I am separate, I am in danger. The cure is the vibration of integration. I am one with the code. I am safe. I am complete. Here is where metaphysics becomes precise technique. To recalibrate the antenna, you must learn to generate a physiological state known as heart coherence. The heart is not just a pump. It is the most powerful electrical oscillator in the human body, 60 times more electrically potent than the brain. When you generate a sustained and genuine feeling of gratitude, appreciation, or compassion, your heart stops beating chaotically and begins to emit a perfectly ordered, high-amplitude electromagnetic wave. This wave is the tuning hammer. When you project this coherent wave from your heart into your own subconscious mind and into your body, the dissonance of the trauma begins to break down through resonance. The molecular chaos of trauma cannot sustain itself against the massive coherence of the heart. The cells that were vibrating in fear are physically entrained to vibrate in gratitude. You are not healing the past psychologically. You are imposing a new vibrational present that makes the past energetically irrelevant. The ultimate goal of this operation is not just to feel better for a while. It is to permanently reconfigure the antenna. We want your default state to stop being threat alert and shift to opportunity reception. When you achieve this, when coherence becomes your new habit, the miracle of flow reversal occurs. Instead of distorting the universal code into chaos and problems, your antenna begins to receive it with high fidelity. Intuition arrives clearly, like a direct voice without the interference of doubt. Synchronicities multiply, because you are emitting the signal that the universe recognizes. Health is restored, because the cells receive the clean signal of regeneration and growth, without the static of fear that kept them in defense mode. Chapter 5. The encryption key, the power of feeling. Now we are inside the system. We have access to the command console. But to write a command that the universe not only hears but obeys, we must understand the programming language at its most fundamental level. It is not enough to have the right intention. It is not enough to have the clear image. To move reality, you need energy. You need a force capable of collapsing the quantum probability wave into a material fact. And that force does not reside in your intellect, it resides in your chest. To understand this engineering, we must descend to the level of field physics. Your body is not just a biological machine, it is a dual-core biotransmitter. You have two main field generators, and although they work together, they have radically different and hierarchical functions. One, the brain, the thought, the electric signal. Your brain is the architect. When you think, I want a new house and I want to heal, or I want that opportunity, your brain emits an electric signal. Neurons fire, creating a specific pattern. This signal is a vector. It has direction, it defines the form, it defines the what. It is the detailed blueprint of the building. But electricity by itself is volatile and cold. It fires and disappears in milliseconds. A thought without emotional charge is like a perfectly written email that stays in the outbox because no one pressed the send button. It is dead information. It remains in the universe's draft folder. 2. The heart body, the feeling, the magnetic signal. Here enters the engine. Feeling is not something you have as a reaction to what happens to you. It is a frequency you emit to cause what happens to you. The HeartMath Institute and other biophysics pioneers have measured this. The heart's electrical field is 60 times greater than the brain's, but its magnetic field is up to 5,000 times more potent. Magnetism is the force that attracts. It is gravity. It is the weight that curves the space around it. If thought is the arrow, feeling is the drawn bow. If thought is the blueprint, feeling is the brick and mortar. Feeling is the how and the why. It is the signal's power. To understand why your manifestations fail, you must understand a concept from telecommunications, the carrier wave. In radio, you have the information, the announcer's voice or the music, and you have the carrier wave, the strong radio frequency signal that transports that information through space. Without the carrier wave, the voice doesn't travel. It is lost in the air within a few meters. In metaphysics, your conscious thought is the information. Your visceral feeling is the carrier wave. This is where the critical failure occurs in 99% of aspiring creators. Imagine you sit down to visualize. You have a clear thought of perfect health information. You see your healthy body. But deep down, in your stomach and chest, there is a subtle but constant vibration of terror, of fear of death or fear of pain, the carrier wave. What signal does the universal decoder receive? The decoder is a magnetic system. It ignores the weak text, health, and tunes into and blindly obeys the potent carrier wave, fear. Fear has more amperage. Fear is dense, heavy, and magnetic. The result: you manifest more symptoms, more diagnoses, more reasons to be afraid, not because the universe is cruel, but because the universe is faithful to the physics of your transmission. You have transmitted fear wrapped in health gift paper, and the universe has responded to the content, not the wrapping. System authentication, why feeling? This hierarchy is not a design flaw. Why is the system designed this way? Why does the subconscious require feeling to accept an order as valid? Because feeling is the stamp of authenticity of biological experience. To your ancient wise biology, thinking is virtual, it is theoretical. You can think about fire without getting burned. You can think about falling without getting hurt. Thought is safe because it is a simulation. But if you feel the heat, if you feel the vertigo, your body reacts instantly. It sweats, it moves away, it dilates the pupils, it changes its chemistry, it releases hormones. Feeling is the biological proof that something is happening now. It is the signature of reality. When you try to program your mind with cold logic, repeating like a parrot, "I am abundant, I am abundant," while looking at the ceiling, the decoder scans your body and says, analyzing signal, text, abundance, body chemistry, neutral, bored, tense. Conclusion, chemical signature of abundance, joy, expansion, security, not detected. This is false or irrelevant data. Command discarded. But when you manage to generate the feeling of abundance, that physical expansion in the chest, that deep calm in the stomach, that involuntary smile, even if it is imagined, the decoder changes its verdict. Analyzing signal, body chemistry, elevated serotonin, muscle relaxation, heart coherence. Conclusion, chemical signature of reality detected. The subject is experiencing abundance, authentication valid, executing wealth program to match internal chemistry. Feeling hacks the system because the system, the subconscious and the body, cannot distinguish between an emotion caused by an external event, winning the lottery, and an emotion generated by an internal alchemy, feeling like you already won. If you have the key, the feeling, you have the control. Without the key, you are just a tourist looking at the vault from the outside. Here lies the technical, precise, and painful reason why most people fail to change their lives, especially when in crisis. They try to manifest from need. I desperately need this. Please let it happen. I can't endure this situation any longer. They believe the intensity of their desire is the key. They think that if they desire something with enough strength and desperation, the universe will take pity. But need is a corrupt encryption key. It is a virus in the transmission. Vibrationally, need is the absolute confirmation of absence. It is a decree of lack. Let's analyze the code. Feeling, I urgently need it. Code translation, I don't have it. I am in danger without it. The reality is scarcity. Feeling, anxiety about the outcome. Code translation, I expect it to fail. I don't trust the process. The future is a threat. By injecting the visual code of desire mounted on the carrier wave of need, you are programming the decoder to maintain the reality of perpetual search, not the reality of arrival. You are encrypting the distance. You are creating a loop where you are always about to get it, but it never arrives because your vibration is that of someone who does not have it. The code operator must learn to release the need in order to grasp the power. They must learn to use the only key that opens the vault. The key of certainty, the key of fulfilled desire. If need is the error code, what is the access code? What is the precise emotion that signals to the system that the work is finished, that reality has been altered? It is not euphoria. It is not manic excitement. In manifestation engineering, relief is the master key. Let's analyze the physics of this underestimated emotion. Why relief? Ask yourself, when do you feel genuine relief? You only feel it when a burden has been lifted, when an imminent danger has passed and did not happen, when a heavy debt has finally been paid, when a negative medical diagnosis turns out to be a mistake and you are healthy, when you find the keys you thought were lost. Relief is the exclusive emotional signature of the final outcome. You cannot feel relief if you are still searching for the solution. You cannot feel relief if you are still waiting for the outcome with anxiety. Relief only occurs biologically when the problem no longer exists. Therefore, when you deliberately manage to induce a sensation of relief in your body, a deep sigh that empties the lungs, a sudden relaxation of the shoulders that carried the world, a decompression of the knot in the stomach, you are hacking the decoder's time code. You are sending it the most convincing biological signal that exists. The event has already occurred. The threat is gone. The desire has been fulfilled. We are safe now. The decoder has no choice but to accept this signal as true. Why? Because relief is almost impossible to fake at a vibrational level while maintaining anxiety. If there is real relief, there must be fulfillment. The system, by registering the relief, assumes that the external reality has changed to justify that internal state. And since the external world, the mirror, always follows the internal, the system begins to reorganize reality, to move coincidences and opportunities, to justify that relief you already feel. The code operator does not wait for the world to change to feel relief. That is being a victim. The operator uses inverse engineering. Instead of obsessively focusing on the object of desire, the car, the specific money, the specific person, they focus on the resolution of the tension that the absence of that object has created. The decompression protocol. 1. Identify the tension. Close your eyes. Think about your unfulfilled desire. Now locate where the anxiety or need resides in your body. Is it in your clenched jaw? In a pressure in your chest? In an emptiness in your stomach? That physical tension is the transmission signal of active search, lack, struggle. It is the static that blocks arrival. 2. The suspension command. Imagine for a second, just 1 second, that the desire was already fulfilled 10 minutes ago. Don't worry about the how it happened. Just imagine that it already passed. The money is in the bank. The news has already arrived. The problem solved itself. It is done. 3. The code exhalation. Now breathe deeply and release the air with a sound, an audible sigh. As you release the air, deliberately release that tension you localized. Let your shoulders drop. Open your hands. Soften your belly. Seek that specific feeling of finally. That microsecond of peace where the struggle ceases because the war is over. That small pulse of relief, that drop in resistance is the perfect encryption key. It holds more reprogramming power than 10 hours of forced affirmations or tense visualizations. Relief is the free bandwidth signal. It tells the system to stop spending energy on worry, search and defense, and to start using it for materialization and enjoyment. It is vital to understand that the encryption key does not depend on intensity, volume, but on coherence, clarity. Many students of these arts fall into the hype trap. They believe they need to feel explosive joy, jump with excitement, and shout to manifest. They believe they must maintain a state of constant ecstasy. That is unsustainable and often false. Hype is unstable. It is a peak that hides a valley of anxiety. It is often a mask to cover doubt. The universal code is silent and powerful. The signal of truth is usually calm. Certainty is calm. Knowing is calm. Ownership is calm. When you truly own something, your shoes, your current house, your name, you don't jump for joy all day about having it. You simply feel secure and at peace with it. You know it is yours. You don't worry about whether it will disappear. The frequency we seek to program the decoder is that naturalness. The feeling of course it's mine, it's normal, it's the next logical step. If your desire feels like an impossible miracle that causes you hyperventilation, you are vibrating at the frequency of, this is foreign to me, this is too big. If your desire feels like a natural relief, like putting on a custom-made glove, you are vibrating at the frequency of, this belongs to me. When your desire feels natural and produces a quiet relief, the encryption has been broken. The code has been accepted. Resistance has dropped to zero, and in that silence of zero resistance, the universe rushes in to fill the mold you have created. You have stopped asking. You have started being, and being is the only command that reality obeys. Chapter 6, The Transmission Tower, Will and Purpose. The word will has been corrupted by centuries of slave programming. We have been taught that willpower is the act of gritting your teeth, tensing your muscles and pushing against resistance until the veins in your forehead bulge. We have been told that will is suffering, that it is the capacity to endure pain to reach the goal. In consciousness engineering, that is not will, that is tension. And tension, as we have already established in previous chapters, is a signal blocker. Tension is resistance. It is proof that one part of you is fighting another. If you use tension to manifest, you are transmitting the frequency of war, and the universe will return a battlefield. True will is something much more technical, colder, and paradoxically much more relaxed. Will is sustained attention, nothing more and nothing less. It is the operator's ability to keep the focus of the antenna pointed at a single coordinate on the quantum map, without deviating, regardless of ambient noise, distractions, or emotional storms. Imagine a giant NASA telescope or a military-grade satellite dish. Its will does not reside in the effort the machine makes to look at the stars. The machine doesn't sweat. Its will resides in the rigidity of its mount. It resides in the stabilization mechanism that prevents it from trembling, even as the Earth rotates. Your will is that fixation mechanism. It is the tripod that holds the camera of your mind. When you decide, I am going to tune into the frequency of wealth, will is not the effort of wanting to be rich. Will is the quiet force that prevents your mind from automatically changing the channel when your physical eyes see an unpaid bill on the table. It is the discipline of non-deviation. It is the capacity to look at chaos and continue transmitting order. The code operator does not use their will to move the world. That is the job of the decoder and the quantum field. They use their will exclusively to keep the signal stable. If you can keep the feeling of relief and the image of your desire in the center of your mental screen, without blinking, without doubting, without allowing yourself to be seduced by the drama of the moment, you are using true will. You are emitting a laser signal instead of a diffused light bulb. A light bulb illuminates a room, but the energy scatters in all directions. A laser takes that same amount of energy, aligns it in a single, coherent direction, and with it, you can cut steel. Will is what turns your thought into a laser that cuts through reality. If will is the stability of the tower, keeping it from falling, purpose is the direction the antenna points toward. Here is where vector physics comes into play. A powerful signal transmitted in 360 degrees dissipates quickly, entropy. Its force dilutes with distance. A weak signal transmitted in a single concentrated direction, a vector, travels infinitely farther and reaches its destination with impact. Purpose in this context is not your philosophical or poetic life mission. It is not just what you want to achieve. In signal terms, purpose is the unified intention. The systemic failure of most people, the reason their lives seem stuck at a standstill, is the divided signal. Their vectors cancel each other out. Let's analyze a typical transmission failure case. Vector A, conscious, transmits, I want a stable relationship. This signal has a force of 10 units north. Vector B, subconscious, fear, transmits, I want freedom, I don't want anyone to control me. This signal has a force of 10 units south. Vector C, trauma, transmits, I am afraid of commitment and being hurt again. This signal is pure static. What is the net result of adding 10 steps north and 10 steps south? 0, you stay in the same place. These opposing vectorial signals cancel each other out in the ether before they can collapse any reality. The net result is silence or white noise. The universe receives the command to move forward and backward at the same time, which translates into paralysis. The transmission tower requires you to align all your vectors. Purpose is the act of engineering to align your conscious mind, what you think, your emotional desire, what you feel, and your physical action, what you do, into a single straight line, pointing at the same goal. When your purpose is clear, for example, my goal is perfect health, it acts as a bandpass filter. It automatically eliminates or silences any thought, I'm tired, any habit, eating poorly, or any conversation, talking about illness, that is not on that frequency. Purpose cleans the bandwidth. It turns noise into a one-note symphony. Technically, when will, stability, and purpose, direction unite, they create what in advanced radio engineering is called a stable carrier wave. Think about this. Your specific desire, the new car, the healing of an illness, the signed contract, is the information, the data mounted on the wave. It is the announcer's voice. But the wave itself, the base frequency that allows that voice to travel, must be robust, constant, and uninterrupted. When you build your tower, when you practice keeping your attention fixed and your intention clear day after day, you generate a stable electromagnetic field around your body. You create a bubble of coherence. This field protects the signal. This is crucial. If you have a strong carrier wave, you can afford to have a bad moment. Even if you have a moment of doubt, sadness, or fear, a momentary drop in voltage, the inertia and force of the carrier wave you have built are so strong that the signal is not cut off. The transmission continues. The novice loses their manifestation because a single negative thought collapses their weak signal. The operator of the tower can have bad days without losing their manifestation because they have built a structure of vibrational habit that sustains the transmission for them. You have created a momentum. You have automated the emission of success. The tower continues transmitting while you sleep, while you rest, or while you are momentarily distracted because the energetic structure is already established. Here is where we define true mastery. The difference between a master operator and a novice is not that the master never loses focus. It is not that the master is a Zen robot who never feels fear or doubt. Both lose focus. Both are human. The only difference, the metric that separates success from failure, is the refractory period. What is the refractory period? It is the time elapsed from when you lose your state of coherence. You get angry, doubt, get scared, until you regain it. The novice has a doubtful thought. This isn't going to work, look at my bank account. Gets hooked on that thought, turns it into a story, calls a friend to complain, gets depressed, stays trapped on that frequency for 3 hours, 3 days, or 3 weeks. Their signal drops completely. The decoder cancels the wealth operation and starts processing ruin. The master has the same doubtful thought, feels the same sting of fear in the stomach, but detects it instantly. Their internal monitoring system says, "Alert, deviation detected," and corrects the course in 3 seconds. Your will must act as a gyroscope. A gyroscope is a device that, once set in motion, resists being diverted from its axis. If you strike it, it oscillates for a second, but immediately, by its own internal force, returns to its vertical center. When the wind of doubt strikes the antenna of your mind, the gyroscope of your will immediately returns it to its center. You don't judge yourself for deviating. You don't get angry at yourself. "I'm doubting again, I'm useless." That would only add more noise to the signal. You simply recalibrate, coldly and mechanically. The instant return technique. Every time you catch yourself transmitting static, worry, complaint, judgment, fear of the future, your job is to execute a soft return. 1. Acknowledge the deviation. No drama, just observation. Alert. Signal lost. I am thinking about scarcity. 2. Cut the power. Stop thinking about the problem immediately. Do not finish the complaint sentence. Do not follow the thread of the mental drama. Cut the flow of energy to that thought. Twist and reconnect. Gently return to your encryption key, the feeling of relief, gratitude, or certainty. Breathe deeply. Feel the anchor. Returning to base. Returning to peace. Reality is my creation. If you have to do this 100 times a day, you have not failed 100 times. You have performed 100 strength repetitions of your will. You have done 100 push-ups of consciousness. You have built a tower that becomes invincible, not because it is rigid and never moves, but because it corrects itself faster than external reality can destabilize it. But sometimes to rewrite a universal code deeply entrenched in your life, like a chronic illness or generational poverty, stability is not enough. You need intensity. You need saturation. Society calls this obsession and labels it as bad, as imbalance. The code operator knows that controlled obsession is a necessary technical tool to break the inertia of matter. Your subconscious has limited bandwidth for processing information. It is like an internet pipe. If 50% of your bandwidth is occupied by news and world noise, 30% by social dramas and gossip, and 10% by daily survival, you only have an insignificant 10% left to transmit your new reality. That signal is too weak to penetrate the density of matter. It is a whisper in a hurricane. You must monopolize the channel. You must saturate your mind with the frequency of your desire until there is not a single bit of free space left for doubt. You must drown the old program in a sea of new information. The total immersion protocol. During the phase of active creation, when you are launching a new project or healing something serious, the operator immerses themselves in their purpose. Micro-visualization. Don't wait for night. Visualize your success while showering, while driving, while waiting for coffee. Keep the image active in the RAM of your brain all day. Environment design. Change your mobile wallpaper to an image of your goal. Listen to music that makes you feel like the person you want to be. Read books that reinforce your new belief. Eliminate conversations with people who reinforce your old self. If your environment doesn't support you, change it or ignore it. Internal monologue. Convert your internal voice into a constant confirmation loop. Do not leave blank spaces for fear to enter. Repeat your mantra, your decree, your I am, until it sounds in your head like a catchy song you can't get out. You are bombarding the decoder with a single massive, omnidirectional and constant signal from every possible angle. When you saturate the system this way, the logic firewall collapses from exhaustion. It cannot filter so much coherent information. The subconscious, overwhelmed by the repetition and the absolute coherence of the signal, surrenders. It stops fighting and accepts the new code as the only operative truth. Finally, the transmission tower stands on a final pillar, signal integrity. In religious or mystical terms, this is called faith. In reality engineering, it is data persistence. It is the ability to keep transmitting the signal of I am rich or I am healthy when the screen of reality shows you a zero balance or an adverse medical diagnosis. Here is where most abort the mission. They look at the screen, the current reality, see that it hasn't changed, and cut the transmission of the new signal. It's not working, they say. Fatal error. If you cut the transmission because the screen is black, you lose all progress. The screen, physical reality, has lag, delay. Matter is dense and slow. It takes time to update. Signal integrity is the iron discipline of saying, the screen is loading. I know there is a delay. My job is not to look at the screen. My job is to maintain the input signal until the image appears. Your will and your purpose are the guarantors that the transmission continues during the valley of silence. That irritating and sometimes terrifying time between the change of mind and the change of matter. If your tower is strong, if your gyroscope works, and if your signal is constant, the wave will cross the valley, it will touch matter, and the image inevitably will appear. Chapter 7. The Silence Protocol, the Zero Hour. We have built the tower, we have aligned the will, but now we must face a biological reality. You cannot sustain the conscious tower 24 hours a day. Your brain needs to disconnect. However, creation does not stop when you close your eyes. In fact, that is precisely where the true magic, or the true tragedy, begins. For the code operator, sleep is not merely a physiological rest. It is a backdoor to the central server. It is the moment when the security personnel go home and leave the vault keys on the table. This chapter is about the most critical moment in your 24-hour cycle. The moment where you win or lose the battle for your reality. We are talking about the 0 hour. During the day while you interact with the world, your brain operates predominantly in beta waves. This is a high-frequency state, designed for survival, analysis, logic, and defense. In beta, your biological firewall, the frequency guard we discussed in Chapter 3, is operating at 100% capacity. It is on red alert. If during the day, in the middle of traffic or a stressful meeting, you try to say, I am rich or I am peace, the guard intercepts the message at the door. It scans it, compares it with your sensory data, your bank account, your current stress, labels it as false, and violently rejects it. Trying to reprogram your mind in the beta state is like trying to enter a besieged fortress by shouting the password from outside the walls. No one will let you in. The signal bounces back. That's why affirmations made with stress never work. The system is armored, but biology has a mandatory backdoor. Twice a day, to be able to sleep and to be able to wake up, your brain must shift gears. It is not optional. It is a physiological requirement. It must decelerate from the high frequency of beta, pass through the bridge of alpha, light relaxation, daydreaming, and descend into the depths of theta, deep sleep, hypnotic trance, the realm of the subconscious. The theta state is the 0 hour. It is the sacred territory of programming. What happens in theta? Something extraordinary. The conscious mind, the guard, the critic, the logical, disconnects, it shuts down. But the subconscious mind, the decoder, the builder, the one that controls your biology and attraction, never sleeps. It remains completely on, listening, waiting for instructions. In the 0 hour, the situation is this. The bank security guard has gone to sleep, but the vault is wide open. Any signal you introduce at this precise moment, any image, any whisper, any feeling, goes directly into the core processor. There is no one at the door to say that's not true. There is no one to say that's impossible. There is no one to say you don't deserve it. In theta, everything presented is instantly accepted as absolute truth and is sent to the reality print queue. Noise versus silence, signal efficiency. The power of the 0 hour is also due to signal physics. During the day, your desire signal, I want to change my life, is weak. It has to compete with a storm of background noise, traffic, news, phone notifications, other people's conversations, your own doubts, work stress. The signal-to-noise ratio is extremely low. It's like trying to whisper a secret in the middle of a rock concert. The universe can barely hear you. In the 0 hour, the world falls silent. Your body becomes still. The senses withdraw, the background noise drops to 0. In this absolute silence, a weak signal becomes deafening. A 5-second thought sustained right at the edge of sleep, "Thank you, it's done," resonates with crystalline clarity in the empty cathedral of your mind. It holds more reprogramming power, more neurological impact, and more force of attraction than 5 hours of effort and forced affirmations during midday. The silence protocol is not about making more effort. It is about making the minimum effort at the tactically correct moment. It is the difference between hitting a steel wall with a hammer for hours, beta state, or waiting for the door to open automatically and simply walking in, theta state. And here we come to the tragedy of the modern human condition. Most people, 99% of the population, use the 0 hour in a catastrophic way. They use it to destroy themselves. Analyze what the average person does. They lie in bed. They turn off the light. The brain begins to descend from beta to alpha. The firewall lowers its shields. The system core opens, vulnerable and receptive, waiting for the instruction that will define the biology and destiny of the next day. And what do? They start reviewing their problems. I can't believe what my boss said. I have to pay that bill tomorrow and I don't have the money. My back hurts. I'm sure it's serious. I'm so lonely. What a disaster of a life. Do you realize what is happening at the engineering level? They are injecting malware, viruses, trojans, destruction commands directly into the core operating system without any security filter. They are taking their deepest fears and converting them into compilation instructions. They are telling the decoder, this is the truth, poverty, loneliness, illness, conflict, execute this for the next 8 hours. The subconscious, which does not judge and only obeys, receives the order. Understood, user has requested more conflict and scarcity with high priority, processing. They fall asleep with the feeling of worry or anguish, and the decoder spends the next 8 hours, 1/3 of their life, processing that order, adjusting the body's chemistry to generate anxiety, and emitting a signal to the quantum field to attract exactly the disasters they feared for the next day. They wake up tired, anxious, and with a life that doesn't change, and they say, I have bad luck. It's not bad luck. It is reverse programming executed with 100% efficiency. They have used the most sacred moment of the day to curse themselves. The code operator understands that the moment before sleep is sacred. It is holy ground. It must be treated as an air exclusion zone. No negative thought, no worry, no analysis of problems is permitted to enter consciousness during the 15 minutes before sleep. If a problem tries to enter, the operator stops it at the door and says, No, not now. Now I am programming tomorrow. I will address you in beta, not in theta. I present to you the technique of the subconscious lullaby. It is the art of condensing your desire into a single ultra-compressed data packet, a short scene or a key phrase, and looping it until the system absorbs it through saturation and drags you into sleep. 1. Data compression, the GIF scene. Do not try to visualize the whole 20-minute movie of your success. First I get the job, then I buy the car, then I travel. That is too much information. Your conscious brain will try to follow the plot and will wake up, revert to beta to process the logic. You need a mental GIF, a 3 to 5 second moving scene that undeniably implies that the desire is already fulfilled. If you want health, do not visualize yourself in the process of healing or taking medicine. Visualize the final result. Visualize the moment you run, jump, or the doctor tells you, "It's a miracle, you are perfect." Just that moment. The doctor's handshake. The smile. If you want money, do not visualize how you work. Visualize the ending. The handshake closing the deal. Or better yet, the finger hitting confirm on a bank transfer or seeing the balance on your phone. If you want a relationship, visualize the ring on your finger or the feeling of sleeping next to your partner. It is a short scene, a fragment of time that contains the totality of the victory. 2. Key assignment, the feeling. Now inject the encryption key we learned in Chapter 5, relief or gratitude. Without this magnetic charge, the scene is just a pretty screensaver. With the feeling, it becomes a rewrite command. You must feel in that mental GIF the emotion of, "Thank goodness it passed, what a relief, what joy." For the injection loop, the lullaby, here is the technical execution. You lie in bed, turn off the light, find your sleeping posture, relax your body. When you feel the fog of sleep begin to arrive, that moment when thoughts become disconnected and the body feels heavy, you start the loop. You play the scene, the GIF in your mind. It lasts 3 seconds. You feel the relief, the gratitude. The scene ends, you immediately restart it. You play, you feel. You restart. Over and over, like a lullaby, like a wave breaking on the shore and returning. You are not struggling to see it in 4K. It doesn't matter if the image is blurry. What matters is the rhythm and the feeling. You are allowing yourself to be rocked by the scene. It is a hypnotic rhythm that tells the system, this is the truth, this is the truth, this is the truth. You are occupying all the available bandwidth of your dying, in the sense of wakefulness mind, with a single signal of success. You leave no space for worry to enter. The system handshake, the moment of transfer. The goal of this loop is not to keep you awake visualizing. The goal is to fall asleep while doing it. This is the technical concept of the handshake between servers. In computing, when two systems connect, there is a handshake protocol where they exchange information. The moment you cross the threshold from wakefulness to deep sleep is the handshake between your conscious mind, you, and your subconscious mind, the universal decoder. Your last conscious thought before losing consciousness is the compilation instruction for the night. It is the executive order. If you fall asleep while repeating the loop of success relief, that is the last instruction the decoder receives before the doors of wakefulness close. It is the packet taken to the warehouse. Your conscious mind says, "Here you go, this is what we are," and it shuts down. What happens then? You disappear, but the decoder does not sleep, it never sleeps. It takes that last data packet, "I am Richard's grateful," and spends the next 8 hours processing it without the interference of your doubts, because your logical mind is asleep. The operator has declared success with a priority of relief, compiling reality. During the night, the subconscious realigns your neurons, adjusts your biology, repairs your cells, and emits the signal to the quantum field to attract the corresponding circumstances. You are using 8 hours of downtime to do the heavy lifting of creation. You are mining reality cryptocurrency while you sleep. You become productive in your dreams. The cycle is completed in the morning. The moment just upon waking, when the alarm sounds but you are still half asleep, floating in that gray zone, is the hypnopompic state. Your brain is climbing from delta theta to alpha. The firewall is still loading. The system is vulnerable again. Most people use this moment to load the backup copy of their problems from yesterday. Their first thought is, "Ugh, I have to go to work, my back hurts, I'm tired, I hate my life." By doing this, they search the archive for the iVictim.exe version and reinstall it for the new day. They erase all the night work in a second. The code operator uses this moment to verify the installation. Before opening your eyes, before moving, before looking at your phone, do one thing. Search for the feeling you fell asleep with. Where is the relief? Where is the gratitude? Ah, there it is. Connect with the feeling of it is a fact. Smile internally, say thank you. By doing this, you save the changes. You confirm that the new code is now the active operating system for the day. You have closed the circle. You have dominated the night, and you have conquered the morning. Your reality has no choice but to follow the script. Chapter 8. The Antenna Calibration, the Imprinting Ritual. To understand this ritual, think of your subconscious as a smart thermostat or a missile guidance system. During the day, the system becomes decalibrated. The impacts of the external world, the logic firewall, problems, doubts, move your reference point toward fear. If you don't recalibrate it, the system assumes that fear is the new correct direction and keeps moving towards it. Calibration is the act of resetting the destination point. It is telling the system, ignore today's deviation, ignore the errors. The destination remains. Success, health, peace. Recalculate the route. This process requires 3 preliminary conditions before you can execute the code injection. The cache flush zeroing, the coordinate selection, the scene, the frequency tuning, the feeling. In this first part, we will prepare the machine. Phase 1, the cache flush, the zeroing. You cannot record a perfect symphony on a tape that is already full of loud noise. Before imprinting the new desire, you must delete the residue of the day. The stress, anger, and frustration accumulated over the last 16 hours act as white noise that distorts any new signal. The cleansing protocol. This step is performed while already in bed or just before lying down. The goal is not to analyze your day that activates logic. The goal is to release it. Quick review. Scan your day backward. Detect the moments of dissonance, the argument, the fear about the bill, the self-criticism. The delete command. Do not judge yourself. Do not try to fix it mentally. Simply look at it as a corrupt file and say mentally, delete, release. I am not taking this into the night. Neutrality. Use your breath to exhale that tension. Your goal is to reach a state of 0 point, a neutral state, neither euphoric nor depressed, empty. A clear receiver is a ready receiver. Phase 2. The coordinate selection, the data packet. Now that the screen is clean, you must select what you're going to project. The decoder needs a specific coordinate. It does not understand "I want to be happy," too vague. It understands accomplished facts. You must construct your imprinting scene. This is the compressed data packet we talked about in Chapter 7, but now we are going to refine it for practice. The rules of the scene. First person. You must be inside the scene, not watching yourself like a movie. You are the protagonist. Brevity. It must last less than 5 seconds. It is a loop, not a long story. Implication. The scene must occur after the desire has been fulfilled. Example. If you want a promotion, do not visualize working hard. Visualize your partner or friend shaking your hand and saying, "Congratulations on the promotion," and you replying, "Thank you." Example. If you want health, visualize yourself tying your shoes to go for a run and feeling the energy in your legs. This small scene is the coordinate. It is the final destination. It contains all the necessary information for the system to calculate the route. Having this scene ready and polished before you start feeling sleepy is vital. You don't want to be making up the script when you are half asleep. You want the script ready to be played. Phase 3, the signal injection, the lullaby loop. You are already in bed. Your body is relaxed. You have released the day. Now you begin to induce the theta state. You allow your logical thoughts to dissolve. You feel that characteristic heaviness, that fog where physical reality loses its hard edges. The critical brain firewall is lowering its guard. The port is open. 1. Start the loop. Bring your short scene, the coordinate, to your mind screen. Visualize the handshake. Hear the phrase, "Congratulations," feel the texture of the contract. Do it once, and then immediately repeat. Return to the beginning of the scene, execute it again. You are not trying to see it better. You are creating a rhythm. You are creating a standing wave. By repeating the same 5-second scene over and over, you are hypnotizing the logical system to stop paying attention and allow the image to slide into the background toward the core. Apply the encryption key, the feeling. While the visual loop is spinning, you must inject the real code, the feeling. Remember Chapter 5. The system does not process the visual image as truth until it carries the digital signature of relief or naturalness. With each loop repetition, ask yourself, how does this feel? It feels done. It feels calm. It feels real. Do not look for an explosion of euphoria. That would wake up the beta system. Look for silent satisfaction. That feeling of, finally, is the validation signal. Saturate the scene with that feeling. Let the image and the emotion become a single frequency. The condensation of reality. As you repeat the loop, image plus feeling, you will notice a curious phenomenon. The scene will begin to feel more real than your dark room. Your physical body will begin to react to the virtual scene. Your muscles will relax more. Your breathing will sync with the scene's rhythm. At this point, you have achieved synchronization. The decoder has accepted the input signal as the current operational reality. Phase 4. The system handshake, the seal of sleep. This is the step where most fail due to impatience or excessive effort. Your goal is not to stay awake doing the exercise. Your goal is to lose consciousness while the signal is active. Sleep is the enter key. It is the save and execute command. The surrender protocol. Keep repeating the loop softly like a lullaby. Do not strive if the image becomes blurry. The important thing is that the frequency of the feeling is maintained. Allow sleep to flood you. Let the fog cover you. If your mind wanders toward the worries of tomorrow, apply the micro-correction, Chapter 6. Gently, without judgment, bring your attention back to the loop of your scene. The moment you cross the threshold from wakefulness to sleep, the last piece of data that was active in your RAM, your success scene, is automatically transferred to the subconscious hard drive for its nighttime processing. You have performed the perfect handshake. You have delivered the order. The operator has gone to sleep, but the system stays on, working on the compilation of your new reality. Phase 5. Nighttime processing, what happens while you sleep. It is vital that you understand what happens now, so that you trust the process. During the 8 hours of sleep, your decoder does not rest. It uses the signal you gave it, success relief, as the master template to reorganize your life. Biologically, it adjusts your nervous system to match the frequency of security and success, repairing cells and optimizing your energy. Quantically, the subconscious, connected to the universal mind, begins to emit that success signal toward the matrix. It begins to attract and organize the synchronicities you will need tomorrow. You are literally building your tomorrow while you sleep tonight. If you had fallen asleep with the news or with worry, the system would have spent 8 hours building disasters. But thanks to your calibration, the system is building miracles. Upon waking, your first sensation will tell you if the calibration was successful. If you wake up with a feeling of peace, of positive expectation, or simply feeling good for no apparent reason, it means the code has been installed. The hypnopompic state upon waking is your confirmation screen. Do not jump up suddenly. Take a minute to savor that residue of the feeling of success. Say mentally, received. The code is active. Chapter 9, the antivirus software, the mental diet. Your mind is no different. You have been working hard to install the new abundance and health software. But if you do not protect the installation, if you do not secure the perimeter, the junk code from the outside world will overwrite your work before it has time to execute. This chapter is not about creation. It is about protection. We are talking about the mental diet, or in terms of our engineering, the antivirus software. To protect your system, you must first stop being naive about the environment in which you operate. You do not live in a sterile vacuum. You live in an information war. Mental viruses are not abstract metaphors. They are packages of memetic information specifically designed to hijack your attention, hijack your amygdala, and alter your vibrational frequency. 1. External malware, collective infection. We are immersed in a soup of fear. The modern attention economy is based on a simple biological principle. The brain prioritizes threat over opportunity. Therefore, to capture your attention and sell you something, a product, an ideology, a vote, the outside world must keep you in a state of alert, high beta waves. The media. They are high-speed virus vectors. Every catastrophic headline, every crisis news story is designed to inject a dose of cortisol into your system. They don't inform you. They infect you. They lower your frequency to fear survival, where you are easier to control and more prone to consume. The toxic environment. The people around you are also transmitters. The person living in constant complaint, the cynic, the professional victim. Their vibration is not neutral, it is a contagious virus. The physics of resonance dictates that if you spend 10 minutes listening to someone complain without protecting yourself, your mirror neurons will begin to imitate their state. The toxic environment. The people around you are also transmitters. The person living in constant complaint, the cynic, the professional victim. Their vibration is not neutral, it is a contagious virus. The physics of resonance dictates that if you spend 10 minutes listening to someone complain without protecting yourself, your mirror neurons will begin to imitate their state. 2. Internal malware, the habitual Trojan. This one is more dangerous because it already lives inside you. It doesn't need you to open the door. It already has the keys. It is the residue of your old programming, the echoes of the inherited code we are trying to erase. The worry loop, an automatic script running in the background that says, what if it goes wrong? What if there isn't enough? The self-criticism loop, a background voice almost imperceptible that narrates your life in real time with contempt. You are not capable. Look at the mistake you made. You will never change. These thoughts are automated programs running in the background, consuming up to 60% of your RAM and lowering your vibrational frequency without you noticing. They make your system slow, inefficient, and prone to collapse under the slightest stress. The mental diet is the act of becoming the system's administrator, sysadmin of your own consciousness. You are no longer a passive user who lets any pop-up window, negative thought, take control of the screen and force you to look at it. You now have administrator privileges. You have the power to shut down processes. The antivirus has 2 critical functions. Input firewall, block toxic information before it enters the system, environment management. Real-time scan, detect your own negative thought the instant it arises, and quarantine it before it turns into an emotion. Here it is vital to remember the golden rule from Chapter 5. Thought is only information, feeling is the authorization. A negative thought, this is going to go wrong, is harmless if it is only a piece of data crossing your screen. It is like a virus in a secure folder. It does no harm. But if you engage with it, if you worry, if you start dialoguing with that thought, you give it emotional authorization. You give it energy. The virus executes. It installs itself in your body as anxiety. The goal of the mental diet is not to prevent negative thoughts from arising. That is impossible. The brain is a machine for generating noise and survival. The goal is to deny them emotional authorization. It is to see the virus, recognize it as such, and hit delete or quarantine before it clicks install. Most people operate without antivirus with the system wide open. They believe they can afford a little worry, a little gossip, a little tragic news before bed. It's not a big deal, they say. I'm just being realistic. They do not understand the sensitivity of the creation machine. Imagine a glass of pure, crystal-clear water. That is your focused consciousness. Now drop a single drop of concentrated black ink, an intense fear thought or envy. What happens? The entire glass is stained, the clarity disappears, the molecular structure of the water changes. An hour of horror news can decalibrate the work of a week of meditation. A conversation full of hatred can lower your vibration for days. The code operator understands that their frequency is their most valuable asset. It is their capital. It is the only currency with which they purchase their reality. Protecting it is not an option. It is an operational necessity of life and death for your dreams. If you lose your frequency, you lose your ability to decode the reality you desire. You become, once again, a victim of the collective transmission, a repeater of the world's fear signal. The 3-layer defense protocol. If frequency is your treasure, you need a fortress to protect it. You cannot rely on your willpower in the moment of attack. You need pre-established protocols. The code operator's defense system consists of 3 security layers. Layer 1, the startup shield, the armored morning. The most vulnerable moment of your system is the reboot, the first hour of the morning. When you wake up, your brain is in a delicate state of transition. You are emerging from theta, pure subconscious, to alpha, conscious. The 3 layer defense protocol. If frequency is your treasure, you need a fortress to protect it. You cannot rely on your willpower in the moment of attack. You need pre-established protocols. The code operator's defense system consists of 3 security layers. Layer 1, the startup shield, the armored morning. The most vulnerable moment of your system is the reboot, the first hour of the morning. When you wake up, your brain is in a delicate state of transition. passing through alpha and climbing towards beta. The critical firewall is still loading. The mind is porous, open, and highly suggestible. If in this sacred moment you allow a virus to enter, you watch disaster news, read a stressful work email, enter the infinite scroll of social media, the virus goes straight to the core. It embeds itself in the root of the system, rootkit. It sets the emotional tone, the base anxiety, and the reactivity for the entire rest of the day. You have already lost the battle before getting out of bed. The Armored Morning Protocol. Strict digital veto. For the first 30 to 60 minutes after waking, your phone must be in airplane mode or physically out of reach. Do not negotiate this. Do not allow a social network algorithm or someone else's agenda to decide your initial frequency. Your mind is sovereign territory. The injection of your own code. The void fills quickly. Instead of consuming external content, create the internal content. Read your main goal. Listen to music that raises your frequency. Tune the dial. Write 3 things for which you feel genuine gratitude. Turn on the amplifier. Setting the tone, boot up sequence. Before opening the door or starting work, make a declaration of intent. Say aloud or mentally, "Today my system is closed to fear and open to opportunity. I am the guardian of my frequency. Nothing and no one has permission to lower my vibration without my consent." By doing this, you go out into the world with the antivirus updated, active, and the shields at 100%. Layer 2, the real-time firewall, the observation. You are already in the world. During the day, negative thoughts will arise. The ego will try to sabotage you. The environment will launch darts. It is inevitable. The key is not to prevent them from arising, but to prevent them from being installed. You must develop the observer, a part of your consciousness that separates from the thinking mind and watches the quality of thoughts like a security guard at the door of an exclusive club. The labeling technique, naming the demon. When a worry arises, "I won't be able to pay this, and she's going to leave me." Do not merge with it. Detect. Notice the physical contraction. A knot in the stomach, tension in the jaw, that is the body's virus alert. Label. Instead of saying, "I am worried," say mentally, "Detected a scarcity thought," or "detected a fear file." By labeling it, you objectify it. You separate it from your identity. It is no longer your reality or you. It is a mental object. It is a corrupt file passing across the screen. The pivot technique. Once detected and labeled, do not fight it. Do not get angry, simply change the channel. Deliberately shift your attention to something neutral or positive. Look at a physical object with attention, a tree, your hand. Recall your success scene from the night before. Breathe deeply 3 times. By withdrawing your attention, which is the system's electricity, you take away the virus's energy. Without energy, it cannot execute. It withers and disappears into the void. Layer 3, the purge command, the cancellation. Sometimes the virus is strong. It catches you tired or off guard. The thought enters and begins to generate emotion. You find yourself submerged in a negative spiral, mentally arguing or feeling real fear. The system has been compromised. You need an emergency command to stop the program execution immediately. A red button. The cancel command. It is a simple but devastatingly effective technique if used with authority and energy. At the exact moment you realize you are spiraling downwards. Say aloud, if alone, or scream mentally with firmness, "Cancel, delete," or "I do not accept." Visualize a large red X like a neon stamp, imprinting over that thought or mental image. Cross out the image. Immediately substitute it with the opposite code. The void must be filled. If you thought, "I am going to get sick," say "Cancel. My body is strong, intelligent, and healthy." If you thought, "I don't have money," say "Delete. Divine providence flows to me always." This act of will interrupts the neural circuit by shock. It prevents the thought from turning into a sustained emotion, feeling, and therefore prevents it from becoming an order for the decoder. You cut the wire before the bomb arms. The 7-day discipline. The final challenge of the antivirus is consistency. It is useless to protect the system for 1 day and leave it open the next. Emmett Fox, one of the great metaphysics masters of the 20th century, proposed the ultimate challenge, the 7-day mental diet. The challenge is simple in rules but titanic in execution. For 7 consecutive days, You cannot allow yourself to sustain a negative, critical, or fearful thought for more than a few seconds. It's not about not having them, they will arise, but about not entertaining them. If a negative thought arises and you cut it off immediately, label, pivot, cancel, you are safe. You remain on the diet. But if you stay ruminating in negativity, if you allow yourself to savor the drama, if you join the complaint or let yourself be carried away by fear, you have broken the diet. You have reinfected the system. And you must start again from day one. This discipline is brutal, but it is the fastest way to rewire your brain. It is intensive training for your guard. It teaches your mind that negativity is no longer an acceptable behavior in this system. It teaches the subconscious giant that you are the administrator and that only high-frequency code has permission to reside in your reality. If you manage to complete the 7 days, your mind will never be the same. You will have installed the permanent antivirus. Chapter 10. The dominant signal living in the transmission. The subconscious decoder does not operate based on one moment of brilliance, but on an average algorithm. It scans your frequency 24 hours a day and calculates the mean. Let's analyze the math of your current life. If you spend 30 minutes in the night ritual, feeling perfect abundance, visualizing and vibrating high, but then you spend 10 hours during the day feeling the subtle worry of waiting, the stress of traffic, the complaint with co-workers. The mathematical average of your signal is worry. The dominant signal is fear, and that is the reality rendered on your screen. The system ignores the 30 minutes of exception and obeys the 10 hours of rule. The miracle doesn't happen when you do the perfect ritual one night. It happens when your dominant signal changes. It happens when 51% of your time, energy, and vibration is aligned with the new reality, and only 49% or less is stuck in the old one. At that precise mathematical inflection point, critical mass is reached. The balance tips, and physical reality, which obeys the law of vibrational majority, flips over. Your work in this final chapter is not to learn a new esoteric technique. It is to learn to sustain the transmission long enough, with enough intensity, so that heavy, slow reality catches up with your fast, light signal. Until now, your rituals have been simulations. You have entered the lab, your meditation, your bed, to artificially generate a feeling. Living in the transmission means taking the simulation to the streets. It means walking through your current life, interacting with your current reality, which is often unpleasant or lacking, but relentlessly transmitting the code of the future reality. This is what the ancients called faith, but in reality, engineering, it is pre-transmission of data. It is acting, thinking, speaking, and feeling as if the code has already executed, even when the screen still shows the pixelated old code. To understand this, imagine you are playing a very complex online video game with a slow internet connection. There is a lag, delay. You see an obstacle. You move the controller to the right to dodge it. But due to lag, the character on the screen takes 3 seconds to move. The novice player panics. It's not moving. Moves the controller left, then right again, hits the buttons, shouting, "It's not working." The server receives a dozen contradictory commands. Right, left, stop, right. The result is the character goes crazy, crashes, and loses. The expert player knows the lag, knows they already moved the controller, knows the command has been sent and received, does not panic, holds the controller pressed firmly to the right, and waits with absolute calm for the screen to update. And 3 seconds later, the character smoothly moves right and dodges the hit. Your life has lag. It is a property of matter. You sent the code for wealth or health last night. The screen, your physical world, your body, your bank, still shows poverty or illness today. It is only the delay of the matter server processing the new geometry. Living in the transmission is the iron discipline of holding the control pressed to the right, maintaining the feeling of relief during success while the screen updates. If you react to the old screen, you get scared by the account, you get depressed by the symptom, you change the command to fear and abort the update process. You restart the lag. If you stay in the transmission, ignoring the visual delay, the update is inevitable. It is law. Identity as transmitter. The highest level of transmission, the black belt of manifestation, does not require constant effort. It does not require trying to feel at every second. It requires a change of identity. The strongest signal is not the one you consciously emit, it is the one you are. If your subconscious identity is, I am a success seeker, your constant signal is search, which implies absence. The universe will give you a life of eternal searching. If your identity is I am successful, your signal is presence and possession. The universe will give you the experience of having. The code operator stops doing the exercises to get something external. They do the exercises to remember who they are. When you become the embodiment of your desire, the transmission becomes automatic. You don't have to remember to feel rich. Wealth is your base frequency, your way of walking, your way of treating others. You don't have to try to heal. Health is your operating system. This change of identity is the inflection point. It is the moment you stop chasing the code and become the source of the code. You stop asking reality to change and start commanding it to align. We understand the theory of lag and identity, but how is this lived on a Tuesday morning when traffic is jammed and bills arrive? You need tactical tools to sustain the signal when the world tries to interrupt it. Here are the 4 phases of the live transmission. Phase 1, Dual Vision, the perception hack. The first challenge is visual and cognitive. Your eyes see scarcity, but your mind must transmit abundance. If you react emotionally to what you see, you lose the transmission. The code operator develops dual vision. You must learn to label your current reality as archived data or history. When you open your bank account and see a low number, or when you look in the mirror and see the symptom, do not say, "This is my reality." That is a decree of permanence. Say mentally, "Interesting. This is the history of my past transmissions. It is only the echo. It is old data exiting the system. It is no longer relevant to my current program." By labeling the present as past, you strip it of its power to affect your current emotional signal. You neutralize it. Simultaneously, you maintain your internal vision, your success scene, and label it as live transmission. What you see with your eyes is the memory buffer, delay. What you feel in your heart is the real-time transmission, truth. Living in the transmission is being more loyal to the live transmission, your imagination, than to the memory history, your senses. It is walking through the world, knowing that what you see is a mirage that is about to dissolve. Phase 2, Micro-actions of confirmation, the physical bridge. The subconscious is a behavioral observer. It observes your actions more than your thoughts. If you think I am rich but act with fear and contraction when buying a $2 coffee, the fear signal wins because it is a physical action, a negative proof of faith. To sustain the dominant signal, you must execute micro-actions of confirmation. You don't need to spend money you don't have or take reckless risks. You need small symbolic gestures that validate your new identity to your own brain. The abundance code. If you are transmitting wealth when you go to the supermarket, do not buy the cheapest brand just out of fear or scarcity habit. Buy the brand you truly like, even if it costs a little more. That difference in cents is a massive investment in your signal. It tells the system, I have enough. I am the kind of person who chooses quality. I am not afraid. The health code. If you are transmitting vitality, do not walk hunched over protecting your pain. Straighten up. Walk with the cadence and speed of a healthy person, even if only for 5 minutes. The physical posture sends a feedback signal to the brain that validates the health code and produces the corresponding chemistry. These micro-actions are bridges. They are small physical anchor points that prove to the decoder that the new signal is not an abstract fantasy, but a valid operating protocol here and now. Phase 3. The physical anchor, the frequency totem. The mind wanders. It is inevitable. The world will distract you. You need a constant physical reminder to return to the frequency, an external reset button. The operator uses a physical anchor or totem. Choose an object you always carry with you. A watch, a ring, a bracelet, a stone in your pocket, or even your phone's wallpaper. Assign that object the function of signal reminder. Consecrate it with your intention. Every time you touch your watch or look at your ring, use it as a trigger to perform a quick system check. Check, what am I transmitting right now, fear or certainty? Correction. If it is fear, breathe, touch the object, and deliberately return to the feeling of relief or gratitude. Returning to base signal. This object becomes your portable control station. It allows you to reset your frequency 50 or 100 times a day without mental effort. It converts the transmission into a tactile habit, taking it out of the mind and bringing it into the body. Phase 4. Interpretation of the glitch, crisis management. Finally, what do you do when something goes wrong? You are transmitting success, but suddenly you lose an important client, or the car breaks down, or you get sick. The logical mind screams, error, system failure. This is the opposite of what I asked for. The law is not working. The master operator knows that this is not an error. It is a reorganization glitch. When you rewrite the fundamental code of your reality, the old structure must crumble to make space for the new one. Sometimes the old building has to be demolished to build the skyscraper. Sometimes losing a mediocre client is the only way the universe can free up time and mental space for the new million-dollar business you asked for. Sometimes a crisis is the system's cleansing mechanism, a necessary purge. Your job is to not judge the glitch, to not label the event as bad. Label it as processing or reorganizing. Maintain your calm. Maintain the signal of everything is fine. This is part of the process. Assume that this chaotic event is, in some mysterious way you do not need to understand now, the fastest bridge to your desire. If you maintain the signal of trust during the chaos quickly reorganizes into a higher order. If you panic, you stop the update and get stuck in the debris. When you practice this, dual vision, micro-actions, the physical anchor, and non-reaction to chaos, you reach the final state of mastery. You reach the point where you are no longer doing anything. The signal of your desire has merged with your base signal. Your pulse, your breath, and your thought are one with your desire. You no longer want to be rich, healthy, loved. You simply know that it is who you are. The transmission becomes silent, constant, and perfect. Need disappears, anxiety disappears, and in that silence of absolute certainty, the decoder, without any resistance, collapses the quantum wave, and physical reality changes instantly, miraculously, and naturally to match your being. You have stopped decoding the world's noise. You have begun transmitting the code of the source. You are the master antenna. The system is yours. The final revelation, the secret that lies in the last bit of information, is this. There is no separation between the transmitter and the receiver. You are not receiving the universe. You are the universal code becoming conscious of itself. The search for the signal has ended because you have realized that you are the tower. Abundance, health, and peace are not distant stations you must tune into. They are the natural frequency of your own being when you eliminate the static of fear. You have repaired the decoder. You have cleaned the channel. Your life ceases to be a reaction to the noise of the world and becomes a pure emission of intention. Your question every morning is no longer, what signal will I receive today, but what master frequency do I choose to transmit to the universe today? If this manual has recalibrated your antenna and returned control of your signal to you, we invite you to maintain the connection. Subscribe to our channel, Path of Knowledge, for more codes that unlock your potential. Like this video to confirm that your signal is clear. Share this knowledge with someone who needs to break free from the static. Thank you for your time, for your discipline to clear the noise, and for the courageous decision to become the operator of your own reality.